Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're sitting there staring at a perfectly good, lightning-fast PC that Microsoft suddenly says is too old for Windows 11, man, you are definitely not alone. With these strict new hardware requirements, millions of totally capable PCs are essentially being left out in the cold. But instead of throwing away perfectly good tech, there is an incredibly powerful, free, and totally private alternative. Today we're going to navigate the world of Linux together. We'll figure out exactly why you should switch, what you should expect, and most importantly, how to find the perfect distribution for your specific needs.
Okay, let's dive right into this. Here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the catalyst driving the switch, hit you with a reality check on what you actually gain and lose, demystify what a distro is, find your perfect match, and wrap up with a zero-risk exit strategy.
All right, part 1, the catalyst. Why switch to Linux in the first place?
Let's validate a frustration I know you've probably been feeling for a while now. Modern proprietary operating systems are just getting heavy. We're talking intrusive ads, telemetry, tracking basically everything you do, and those forced updates that literally reboot your machine right in the middle of a project. So ask yourself, is Windows 11 leaving your PC behind? I mean, if you're rocking an older but totally capable machine, like say an Intel Core i7 laptop from a few years ago, that thing still has 4 cores. It's still snappy. It absolutely does not deserve to become e-waste just because of some arbitrary corporate policy. Honestly, this forced obsolescence, it's kind of the perfect excuse to finally take the plunge and try Linux, which is essentially your escape hatch from that entire ecosystem.
Which brings us to section 2, the reality check, what you gain and what you lose.
Look, I want to be brutally honest with you here before you make the leap. Switching your OS is a really big deal, and we need to talk about the real trade-offs. On the plus side, you're gaining a lot. Incredible speed, total control over your privacy, with absolutely zero forced telemetry, a massive library of free software, and basically a second life for your older hardware. But, and this is a big but, look at the lose side. You are going to have to shift your workflow. Native Microsoft Office, the Adobe Creative Suite, they just do not run natively on Linux. And for you hardcore gamers out there, certain games that use proprietary kernel-level anti-cheat, they simply will not launch. You can totally use web apps or amazing alternatives like LibreOffice, but you are effectively trading those proprietary ecosystems for total 100% ownership of your machine.
Moving right along to section 3, what exactly is a distro? The engine and the car.
So this is usually the most confusing part for newcomers. When you switch to Windows, you just buy Windows, right? But with Linux, you have to pick a distribution or distro. Think of it exactly like a car. The Linux kernel, that's the core software talking directly to your hardware, that is the universal engine. Almost every distro uses that exact same engine. But a Linux distro takes that engine and wraps it up with a unique desktop environment and specific apps. That's your car body, your dashboard, the seats, the paint job, the whole shebang. So you actually get to pick the specific body and dashboard that fits your daily ride while knowing that super reliable Linux engine is humming away underneath it all.
All right, section 4, finding your match. Distros by user needs.
Now, with literally hundreds of distros out there, decision paralysis is incredibly real. Let's completely eliminate that right now. We're going to break this down based on your specific hardware and lifestyle. Are you an absolute beginner coming straight from Windows? You'll want Linux Mint or Zorin OS. Trying to resurrect a 10-year-old laptop? MX Linux or Linux Lite is your target. Are you a gamer or a creator pushing a high-end GPU? Pop! OS or Bazite are calling your name. Try to figure out which persona fits you best as we dive into the specifics of these recommendations.
Let's start with the absolute beginners. Linux Mint and Zorin OS are hands down the best starting points if you're coming over from Windows. Why? Because they offer almost a zero learning curve. They give you this super familiar Windows-like interface. You know, start menu on the bottom left, taskbar right where you expect it. Everything you need from your web browser to your Office suite comes pre-installed. Your Wi-Fi and audio are pretty much guaranteed to work right out of the box. And the absolute best part? Zero forced telemetry or weird AI stuff injected into your desktop. Mint is famously lightweight, sipping on just about 1.2 gigabytes of RAM, while Zorin OS is incredibly polished and even packs in tools to help you seamlessly port over your Windows apps.
We also definitely have to talk about Ubuntu. Ubuntu is essentially the proven, stable benchmark of the entire Linux world. Honestly, distros like Mint and Zorin, they're actually built right on top of Ubuntu's foundation. The huge draw here is that Ubuntu offers 5 years of long-term support. That means you get rock-solid security updates for half a decade without ever having to do a major system upgrade. Now, it does use a slightly different layout. It's got this dock on the left instead of a bottom taskbar. But if you want massive community support and a system that literally runs the internet, Ubuntu is the gold standard.
Now what about our next group, those of you with older hardware? Guys, MX Linux and Linux Lite are basically magic. If you're trying to revive a 10-year-old, totally bogged-down potato PC, these distros hit the absolute sweet spot. They balance incredibly low resource consumption with genuinely powerful graphical tools. Take MX Linux, for instance. It includes this awesome suite called MX Tools that handles everything from driver updates to system cleanup, and it's all done through simple point-and-click menus. You can completely avoid using the command line while keeping your aging hardware snappy, productive, and honestly, feeling brand new.
Okay, but what if you're on the other end of the spectrum? You're a gamer or a creative pro with some serious modern hardware. Pop! OS and Bazzite are your go-to options. Historically, dealing with graphics drivers on Linux could be a massive headache. Pop! OS literally removes that entire problem by offering an installer with NVIDIA drivers pre-configured. Plus, it features this desktop environment called Cosmic that automatically tiles your windows into this super efficient grid, which is an absolute game-changer for multitasking creators. Bazzite, on the other hand, is a total gaming powerhouse with Steam baked right in. It's what's called an immutable distro. That's just a fancy way of saying the core system files are locked down and totally indestructible. It is crazy stable and basically treats your PC like a dedicated gaming console.
And hey, I want to briefly shout out our Mac migrants. If you love that clean, centered dock, minimalist aesthetic of macOS, Elementary OS is a beautifully consistent, elegant solution built specifically for your tastes. And if you happen to be rocking a modern M-series Apple Silicon Mac and want to run Linux natively on that crazy powerful hardware, there's a groundbreaking project called Asahi Linux that is literally making that a reality.
Finally, for the tinkerers and the developers out there, we've got Fedora and Debian. Now these give you absolute control, but be warned, they do come with a steeper learning curve. Fedora is backed by Red Hat and is all about giving you the bleeding-edge tools and the absolute latest software first. Debian, conversely, is the unshakable, rock-solid workhorse of the Linux ecosystem. It purposefully uses slightly older, extensively tested software to guarantee pure stability, but it leaves you totally in charge from day one. You build the system exactly how you want it, piece by piece.
You know, this mental friction you might be feeling is captured perfectly by a quote from our sources. It says, "Linux isn't harder, it's just different." Once you stop comparing and start learning how it actually works, the difficulty drops fast. I cannot stress this enough. Managing your expectations is vital here. If you go in expecting Linux to act exactly one-to-one like Windows, you're going to get frustrated. But if you view this transition as an empowering mindset shift, a moment where you finally take back ownership of your computer, you are absolutely going to thrive.
Which brings us to our final section. Section 5, the zero risk exit. Try before you install.
I know I've thrown a ton of info at you today, but here is the best part. Trying this out is entirely 100% risk-free. You do not have to delete Windows today. You can test drive a completely different operating system using a dead simple 3-step process. Step 1, you download the ISO file. That's just a digital copy of the OS, straight from the distro's website. Step 2, grab a free little program like Rufus or Balena Etcher and flash that file onto a cheap USB thumb drive. Step 3, plug it in, restart your computer, and boot live directly from that USB. It's so cool. The entire Linux operating system just loads right into your computer's RAM. You can browse the web, test your Wi-Fi, play around with the desktop, all without ever touching a single file on your Windows hard drive. And if you're like, not for me, just unplug the USB, reboot, and you're right back in Windows. It is literally that simple.
So, there you have it. You've seen the trade-offs, you know the major players, and you have a completely zero-risk way to test the waters. With forced obsolescence looming over perfectly good hardware and true privacy becoming this rare premium, are you ready to finally take back control of your computer? I enthusiastically invite you to pick a distro from our matrix today, grab a USB drive, and start your journey into a faster, private, and incredibly rewarding digital life. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and hey, happy exploring!